Well, good evening, all. We're here to have our December regular meeting for the Communications Technology Committee. And we have a short agenda here. I think it would be nice to say thank you to all the residents that are here, which is great to have also. We'd like to formally call the meeting to order to determine that we have a quorum. And there's three of us, and we're missing one, which would be Ruben. And he's still away on travel, I think, to his job, which is up in Farmington.
Yep.
So, we call the meeting to order, and we have a quorum. So starting with the old business, the purpose of the meeting tonight is primarily to discuss the Spectrum franchise plan, which we have been successful in acquiring the attention of Spectrum to do the last road in the town that qualifies under the franchise agreement, which means that we needed 9 homes per mile within a defined road in order to get them to cover it under our agreement. And I'm happy to say that we have submitted all the names of 15 residents along Chapel Road. And I wish to thank all the participation. And if you would like to introduce yourselves to us, we would appreciate it, so we can have it on the record of our meeting. Robin Philbrook and Dave.
David.
And
Ralph.
Roselle.
Ralph Roselle. Thank you for your help in making that possible. So we are hoping to have an answer. Has the town been informed as to what the anticipated date might be? Do you have any idea, Bob?
I haven't heard anything, and I know I would have if we had something. Julie would tell me, and she'd tell Max. So, have you heard anything, Max?
I haven't heard anything.
When did we submit the information to them?
Submitted the information to Spectrum?
Yeah.
Last Tuesday.
Was it around that time?
Yep.
I mean, they're allowed 9 months under the agreement. I hope they don't take that long. Like we're pulling teeth. But
Right.
they're allowed 9 months to do something.
Okay. Well, that's be too bad if it takes that long after all they've been through with
Yeah.
the initial intent.
And
then
maybe we ought to clarify one other thing, and that is that the franchise agreement deals only with TV. Of course, by default, it'll deal with internet and phone, because they're all carried along the same cable. But if one wanted to be really picky about it, if they decided to be really picky about it, all they're supposed to provide is TV service to the residents.
that's because the agreement that we still stand on was written before there was internet
That's right.
and IP phone available.
Yeah, but the questionnaire you folks filled out did mention the other
Yeah,
services.
that's what I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
and that came right from Spectrum, that thing
It
was
did.
filled out, correct?
Right. And they ask the questions
They did.
for all three. They make more revenue stream off of you if you sign up for all three.
Right.
So I don't think we have to concern ourselves too heavily about that. That's my understanding anyway. So I guess what we need to do is figure out at this point, once we do have something of an intention, we need to let your people know right away so that you can start being anticipatory of a date for service. In case you're using a satellite system or some other means to connect, you don't have to renew any longer once we have some date. But right now, you'd have to be solid with nine months.
Yeah, 9 per mile.
Yep.
I'm guessing they won't even let you know. They'll just show up someday and you'll see their trucks and they'll be string and wire. I don't know, what's your feeling on that?
That's what you'll see. You'll see them around looking with a Spectrum truck, the white truck for the lettering, and they're up there looking and they're planning. Maybe you can even intercept the field techs if you see them on the road there. Hey, are you getting ready to put our cable in? It's amazing how much information you can get from them by
Yeah,
doing that.
Yeah, from the guys, they're pretty good.
Yeah. So I certainly would hope that by June, you should hear at least something in the way of activity overhead. So,
Can I ask a question?
yes,
So. this
Someone
nine-
said on the keys, I think. Yes. I done that before. It was.
This 9-month window that they have to work under,
There we go.
was this, is this just from the point that you submitted the appropriate number of signatures for them to say, to go ahead? Or would it be 9 months from their original franchise agreement that this
Okay.
seems like it should have maybe been done?
right. Well, the original franchise agreement goes back many years. And that and their position is it's the last signed agreement that we had with a prior provider that they acquired. There's been probably 4 changes in ownership of the cable system in this town since this agreement. But their position is that that's the last signed agreement, so that is the agreement. So it has to do with probably 9 months from either the date that Julie was told, well, once we get these into them, then it would be in effect, they would have to provide it. And I'd like to use that as an optimistic idea and hope that happens. So since last Tuesday,
Okay.
that's what I would think. So we hope to get something more official, and in fact, we expect to.
So at least a preliminary feedback from
Right.
them is, yes, we're gonna go ahead with this
Yep.
but it will be 9 months, or it won't be till,
I think they'll probably start sooner than that. Most of the town, they've been working in this town in the last year to put cable in areas that we were unaware of, that do not really measure up to the original agreement of 9 homes per mile. Over on Goshen Road, all the way, I don't know if you're familiar with that road, there's a railroad crossing. There's cable that goes all the way down through there, and then there's a little side road off of Goshen Road called Bowden Road, and they ran cable all the way to the end of that. That's a little dead-end road, and there's certainly not 9 homes per mile there.
I have a friend that lives up off 220, and I think she's on the higher road.
Yeah.
And she's down that road, and there's not 9 houses on there, but she has it.
Right.
She's
This
had
is
it
on
for a
220,
while.
is this Hoek Road by chance? Is that the one you're,
Higher road, she said.
oh, higher?
I don't know if it's, is it
Burnham's a highway.
Burnham's, where the
I guess
Burnham's used to
Benham
live?
Road now? Yes,
Right.
it was a higher road.
Okay,
Yeah.
was it? Okay, so right there, but there's not 9 houses out there. There might be,
Right.
what?
So,
Better one.
so we would hope
3 or
that they
4.
would give us a better idea about that in the near future.
Would be great. We're anticipating.
We're expecting to hear more, and let's leave it at that before there's a date, and a date will be given, most likely.
Just to the committee, I just wanted to mention that of the 15 whatever names that we had, the other residents would have loved to have been here tonight, but the majority of them have small children. They're home getting meals, just getting home from work, and it was not really an ideal time, but they really are standing behind your efforts to
Right.
make this happen for
Well,
them.
well, thank you for coming by. We certainly, it's been a difficult challenge to get Chapel covered. It was supposed to have happened 2 years ago, and on a grant, which we were going to acquire for running fiber through there, and that didn't occur. So I'm happy to say that we were able to look over this in more detail and get the attention of Spectrum to come through for us.
Certainly appreciate your efforts.
So it's been an interesting process.
Sounds good.
So, let's see. So anyway, that is basically all we have to say about that tonight. There is, going into new business, Connect Me grant opportunities. Now, Connect Me is the state authority which has been reorganized under Department of Economic and Community Development, so that's where that group is working on getting grants organized. As they did in the past, they haven't changed that much in terms of their scoring system for grants, how they decide who gets the money when all the different towns apply. They have been limited over the years, the 10 rounds that they've had, to around $1 million of money per year. And so it's always been very competitive. And they know, the director knows that Waldeboro is just about done. We've had 3 grants in total so far. And two of which I would say they've been successful. The first one was somewhat successful. However, the wireless system didn't meet the criteria that was expected when the application was made. So we're trying to go back and fill in the remaining holes with grants, and I call them pockets. They're little pockets of areas that have especially existing service by a cable provider or a fiber provider that's in their area on an adjacent road or a budding road, whichever you prefer. Because the expense per mile is very high, and to be competitive, the best thing to do is to apply based on the least expense and then with the maximum number of houses that are unserved to get the best score to compete for the grant. And typically, they've done a 50-50 where the state Connect Me grant pays 50% and the provider pays the other 50%. That's historically how it's been done. So we still have these identified pockets. Some are a little more attractive because of their proximity to the existing service provider, so they have a better chance financially than those who have a longer distance to get to their area. And so we have identified what I think is 3 places in this town that we need to focus on with selection of a willing provider to go and do a grant. And I understand, Max, you had talking to Heather, Heather, the
Johnson,
director,
yes.
Heather Johnson, the director, and she is favorable towards trying to fulfill small grants for these remaining areas. Did you get that impression?
I got that impression for this current round that's happening right now. For anyone watching or people in the audience, there is what I'm calling a bonus round going on right now, because there is the usual cycle starts in January, closes in March, and then it's awarded in May. And there was one town this year, one recipient, who couldn't fulfill their request, so there was about $150,000 now in the pot, which, from the impression I gathered, she wants to try and do more small bits and pieces rather than one huge project.
Right.
I don't know if that's going to be the case for the next round or not.
Right. So we, in this case, we came up with the most likely candidate would be the south end of Flanders Corner Road, where there is no service in that area at this time. And there is no way to take the fiber from the north end of Flanders down from Old Augusta Road, because there's so many poles that would have to be put in place, that the best opportunity was to go from the south end north to cover the 5 homes in that area. And we proposed that idea to Spectrum, and they wanted the town to put up more money than they would. so, so that it wasn't going to be what we would had anticipated, a 50-50 kind of arrangement. It would have been a three-way split with Spectrum only paying a small amount compared to the Connect Me and the town. So the town has decided that that has not been the policy for us to do that, and there is no money in the budget this year.
That's the kicker, there's no money in the budget.
Yeah. The budget, this would have had to been budgeted, and it would have been the first time that the town would have had to come up with money for any, for providing any service.
Can we look at the numbers a little bit on that, John? Back
Yes.
in June or July, they were suggesting it would cost $7,000. Was
I
that?
think you actually have the
Yeah.
list right in front of you now.
They have been shifting the
Flanders, yeah.
goalposts.
Flanders Corner, it was estimated back in July, $7,600.
7,600. And then, when they finally came in with numbers,
They estimated $30,000.
$30,000.
And I'm not sure why the, and
And the Spectrum connection is very close to the south end of Flanders Corner Road. I mean, they don't have to travel hardly any distance at all
Yep.
just to tie into the poles that start with the south end of Flanders Corner to bring that service in.
without getting anything, I don't know why that jump happened. That's still a question I've never got an answer, but
We've asked-
Orf's Corner abuts Flanders at the south end,
Yeah.
and there's service there. And there are 5 properties that are unserved that are within
You said
a third of a mile.
Yeah.
So we're confused about that, and so we're not sure what we're going to do to prepare to get that area covered for the next grant round, which it would be possible to do. Or whether we should seek an alternative way of covering that area. So that's not as good news, but that's unfortunate that we have to leave it at that at this moment without any further. I have no other idea about what to do at this point.
we have limited options for this grant round because we have to submit the.
I had to take that, I'm sorry. That was
Okay.
important to this
Well, glad you
conversation.
came back. We're going to put you on the spot now, Julie.
Okay. Well, I might actually have information now, so that's
I'm
good.
warning you, we were just talking about just a little bit about Flanders Corner and how that didn't happen
Yes.
because of the town budget. Can you give us any ideas about whether some things Spectrum would entertain this in the future?
They would, but that's gotta be approved by the voters.
Okay,
It's not something I can just put in the budget.
right.
You're talking about the $30,000?
Right. And I'm gonna just be very blunt. It's probably not something that would pass the voters.
To serve 5 homes paying.
Right.
Right.
That's not, it might, and I've only been here a year and a half. It's just, and, you know, the budget committee, it's not just the voters too, but the budget committee and the select board would have to have internal fortitude to put it in. And the voters, you know, that's, anything that increases. So when you have 5 miles of roads
Right.
for $400,000, it's all in what can
So-
be.
I guess what I'd like to recommend then is that we consider looking into getting the other provider, LCI, to extend the fiber
On the north end.
from
We've
the
had-
north end down all the way to the end of
Right,
Flanders
we've had
Corner
wonderful
Road.
success with that. Now, I was just trying to have a phone conversation with Spectrum.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been trying all day.
Timing.
Timing is everything. But they did receive everything. They're gonna have to honor it. They're gonna talk to scheduling. That's the best I could do. But they have, I think it's 9 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
They have 9 months to do the connection. I told them the quicker would be better. So that's where we're at.
Yes, what,
But at least I got something. That's why it's just I kept dropping the call,
right.
which happened earlier today, and I kept dropping the call. So I don't know if it was, I think it was her then it was me, but I actually talked to Melinda.
Very good. Well, that's consistent with what we just covered here, but we're hoping to get some kind of an answer for the people on the road by maybe in a month or two. What do you think?
She intimated that it would be like 2 weeks
Oh, there you go.
Sorry, 2 weeks to do what?
to get an answer of when to expect the service, not the service.
Can I ask a question, John?
Yes, please.
$30,000 sounds like an awful lot of money. Did they make the mistake that you referred to, which would be bringing the cable down from the north side instead of bringing it up from Orphan Corner Road?
No, because they don't have cable up at the north end.
No, not LCI, I'm talking about Spectrum.
No,
Yeah.
we're talking
LCI.
about Spectrum doesn't have the cable on Old Augusta Road up there.
Oh, it's LCI.
Yeah,
Yes.
LCI runs through Old
Oh,
Augusta
okay.
Road, Spectrum runs through.
See, we have
Morse.
fiber optic cable coming down, beyond, down to the last pole, just north of you. It's right across the street from your property, as a matter of
I
fact.
know where it is.
Yeah. So that could be extended by poles. They could, it is potentially an opportunity for them to apply for a grant to complete that.
And part of this we have to realize too is it's a business, and quite frankly, they could have, we don't know where we were. They could have already committed to another town for this round of grants, that they would put in the full Monty and they'd be getting much more money. It might not just have been the 4 or 6 houses for us. They could have put in a grant for 20 houses, so they're gonna go, because it's a business, they're gonna partner
Bang for the buck.
with the biggest bang for the buck. So that might have been why they were only willing to put in $4 grand.
But the good, just finish on the question, excuse me a second, on Flanders Corner. The other incentive we have is the other provider who has fiber coming down from the north end already. If their goal is to create a complete loop for that infrastructure back to the Route 1, and that gets them closer by going down that way to that point. And then in another future opportunity, they could then go further down on Route 32 all the way to Route 1. They wanted to make it into a loop. All of the networking infrastructure wants to be a loop in case you get, so you don't have failure because of one side being out because a tree fell down on the line or something like that. You have to have the other route. See?
Gives you redundancy.
Yeah, redundancy is the proper word, right? Thank
If
you.
only Central Maine Power could understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, along those lines, I know it's not,
The power
but
lines?
along those lines, I'm a very funny girl. Along those lines, after last year's storm, it became evident we had some issues in Waldeboro with that. The local person had left and we had gotten thrown down to Topsom, and they didn't know they had us. That has since changed, but we're still working with them because having lived through Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey, a lot came up during that. So at our emergency management meetings, and anytime I have the opportunity to talk to CMP about that, I do. Because it's problematic and it's not redundant. And
so
it,
when you talk about CMP, then CMP would be the likely one to add the poles for the power on the top.
right.
And then there'd be the room to put the
Right, but the
telecommunications.
problem is it's just, when something's out, it's out here.
Right.
And nobody seems to, there's no urgency like there needs to be. So I just wanted to address, like, if we are having CMP issues, let me know, because we're trying to let people know. We're trying to keep the CMP in the loop and hold their feet to the fire to make sure that they understand it's an issue.
Okay,
This
so,
gentleman had a question, John.
yes, go ahead, I'm
In
sorry.
regard to the jump in overall price, have we asked for their rationale as to why there's such a significant change? And where we're doing business with them right now, I think, they should be able to put some kind of rationale from
Well, you can
7,600
join
to-
my team if you'd like
to
to.
30.
I'm the bad cop. There's
Well,
the good
you
cop
gotta
down
play a
there.
little bit of hardball. I mean, it's like holding anybody's feet to the fire.
Right.
Well, we don't have a lot of, to be honest, we don't have a lot of
Leverage.
leverage for it.
Well, I think it's still worth asking the
We did.
question. And what they tell you?
She's like, that's what they went through from their, she's not their engineering and surveying crew, it's the engineering and surveying crew.
And to have 7,600 versus 30,000?
Yes.
Which is why I thought it
So-
was coming from the north
someone's-
side.
someone's playing
of
a
Old Augusta
game.
Road.
Well, and they may very well be, but we don't have the,
There's one angle we can play that we haven't played so far, if we want to spend money hauling them into court and acting in bad faith under their agreement. And my argument on that issue is that 5 homes and a third of a mile.
that's not, they're not gonna honor that.
I know that, I
but-
know they won't, but we can take them to court and
No,
take them on it.
no, there's
We get
been
a
court-
judgment against them.
No, there's been court cases already on
Is that what they've told you?
No, actually, I read that on the internet, cause I checked that.
Okay.
Not, but it's actual, it is the whole mile. It can't be a prorated mile. It has to be a full mile. New York, I wanna say Rochester, New York tried that.
So that's when the governor spoke out?
No, I think that was before that.
I see.
Plus, there's also, are we recording?
We are recording.
There's also the issue of, is broadband covered under the franchise agreement? So, I wouldn't,
It's not. But the franchise agreement dates back to 1982.
I understand, and we've got them to agree to it, to the 9 homes, and we have to be, if we ever wanna partner with them again, we don't wanna burn bridges, so as frustrating as it is, it's complicated, I know. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer, I always am, it's just me, I'm sorry. Normally, I'm really happy.
This has been well, it's, you know, I figure I've been here, 12 years? I've been working on this for 10. We're trying to keep it going, and it's been quite a challenge.
Are you here for the EMS meeting?
Yeah.
Fire department,
Thank you.
you're
So-
welcome.
In the middle, Julie.
In the middle, well,
So
we'll get there.
the good news is there are any number of surrounding towns that I know of, the people that, like myself, that have been working on this, and they all have these little pockets that are not within the franchise agreements, that have unserved residents that need the connectivity just like everybody else. Someday this is gonna have to come to a point of consideration beyond
Well, I
what
think
it
that
is.
then Connect Me needs to make it clear, because the towns don't have the money. And I mean, I sit at the managers' meetings and I sit at the MCED meetings. The towns, you know, to get a town to have the internal fortitude to want to put money into it for those little pockets, it's once it's turned over to the voters, they're not gonna, you
And they're
know.
gonna say, you know, those people knew what they were buying when
That's
they
exactly
went
what
there.
they're gonna say,
Yeah.
right?
You know, why did they buy there?
Well,
Right.
and that's why, at least with the Connect Main grant, it doesn't cover private roads.
That's
Right.
another problem.
Right,
Yeah.
right, so a private road,
It's
you know,
ambiguous too.
Right, yet I think there are some private roads where you'll see cable that's
that
coax.
people have either paid for
They
or.
paid for it themselves.
I mean, I know my daughter's looking at property in Damariscotta, and just to put in her, and we're on a private road, but for her to put in her electric and for her to put in her cable, I mean, you know, her electric alone is 12 grand,
Right.
you know, and I think that's 3 poles.
Wow.
It is crazy, you know, so,
So I guess the point is that we've got to make the Connect Me Authority aware of these dilemmas as we go forward.
I think the not funding that other portion is important. Because that we've been spoiled by LCI, or they have that ability to pick and choose when they do it. And I think that's something we need to know. Any town who's going to apply and partner needs to know what those rules are. And Connect Me probably should make that clear going forward.
Right. The rules up till now have been 50-50,
Right.
with they provide half and the
Right.
provider provides the other half. And I'm sure there are some exceptions buried in all the details of some of those grants, but by and
But
large-
definitely talk to your friend up there, because I think that's an important thing to know, especially as we,
In fact, I want to take Max to meet with her sometime so that we can, so that you're
Yeah.
involved with this too, from being our new planner. in the
I
town.
don't know if new is really the word to use now, a year later.
Oh,
That
you've been here a
is-
year?
Is
They've been here a whole year.
I've been here for more than a year, yeah.
Yeah, a year and a half almost.
Yeah, time flies.
One of my great hires right there.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you.
That's right, you've been here that long too, so.
Mhm.
Yeah. Very good. Well, anyway, things are moving along, so I guess for the next step, just to put a cap on this point, we ought to investigate that detail about the grant structure.
I am curious to see that as well because if I believe Melinda sent us an email saying that Spectrum has done Connect Maine grants before.
Mhm.
So
And they have done it with a share.
yeah, so that is sort of interesting. It might just be LCI's more going to foot the bill, or
Right.
or it might be this case where Spectrum sometimes does give maybe 40 or 50% of the share, but as Julie pointed out, maybe they just had another application at the time.
Right. So I guess, are there any other comments about that part of, before we go on to Store Mountain Road? I guess that's all we can offer at this point.
I do like your idea, though, encouraging LCI to complete that loop.
Yeah.
And I would think they'd have a better take rate from Orf's Corner down to Route 1 on Route 32 than they initially had on Old Augusta Road. Because I think there's more demand along 32.
Well, there is an industrial park, as we all know.
That's there, and you've got other small businesses along that road.
Right.
You might have more luck.
And there's also a tie into the Nobleboro Road,
Yep.
which is, they have fiber on there already, most of the way. So it sets them up in a more complete infrastructure. So anyway, if there's any other further comments on that before we move on from anyone? Because we'll move on to the last item under new business, Store Mountain Road. So, Mr. Letney, I'm sorry, I can't remember.
It's Jim.
Jim, I really appreciate you coming, and we would like to talk to you about your particular situation because it is an area that we hope to cover. We have to figure out a way to do it because it is a long distance
Yeah.
to cover.
Just some history, kind of try to give you an overview real quickly. About 8 years ago, we were approached by, or maybe it's vice versa anyways. Long story short, we talked with Midcoast Internet. They needed a place to put up a tower. We negotiated a deal with them. They put a tower on our property, which they lease or rent X amount of dollars per year. That tower is connected via to Dick Glidden's tower to transmit internet to that tower, which will disseminate at that point down to 220, Kennedy Corner, several places up towards Washington. Unfortunately, Midcoast really didn't have a whole lot of money. Once they got it set up, it worked pretty well for quite a while.
Right.
GWI took over. They never really put any money into that infrastructure. The technology kept on deteriorating. And then after GWI, Red Zone took over. And again, it's a solar type of scenario. You need electricity of some sort, or you need a better system. Long story short, Red Zone actually GWI did some research, had people come out, take a look at it, what they could do. They gave them some pricing. They didn't do anything. Red Zone, we just recently pushed to get them to take a look at it through Tump. I don't know if you know Tump, Blair May. He does solar type of stuff, lives up off 220's neighbor. And he came up with some pricing. And the decision was finally made that they're gonna decommission that tower.
Right.
As effective January 1st, 19. So,
Have they formally notified you of that?
yep, And they're in the process of notifying, or have notified, what now is probably 5 people that are left on that, off of that tower. At one point, I think there was 12 to 14.
Mhm.
But over the last 8 years, the tower's been up and down, up and down. It's difficult to get to, especially in the winter. I mean, they've put generators up there, tanks of gas. I've been up there via snowmobile, cutting trees, doing anything to help to maintain the system. And they have too, you know, whether it be GWI or the various ownerships. So you do the cost analysis, it's pretty quick to come to the realization, if there's 4 or 5 people using it, you're not gonna pay for infrastructure or an improvement of $5,000 or $6,000. It's just not gonna happen, or more. Also, what's happening is that the tower now has a twist to it, because we've had some pretty significant winds. They can't really put a couple pieces that would really improve the quality, because the structure won't handle it. We're also talking about wind power to maybe regenerate. And that, again, the tower won't support it. So, and now the anchors are becoming a little less stable, because they were put in with Quikrete. So really, the net result is that, you know, the time has come to pull the proverbial plug. So I approached Max, and I've been doing research on, obviously, satellite. LCI, I know the town has been pretty active with. And LCI Tidewater goes right on, as we all know, Old Estorov.
Right.
So I took the initiative, talking with Max, to come up with a letter of interest, if you will, that we could present to LCI, indicating that there are 6 or 7 families, households on that road that would certainly be interested. Is it a guarantee that everyone will do it? No. But probably 5 or 6 is my best guess. With my family alone, there's 3, 4. So, and then Chris Morrill's out the end of the road, and probably the Morrises as well. So we're trying to determine, you know, what's the best route to go, strategy-wise, to talk with LCI to see if we can get them to come up, at least do a feasibility engineering standpoint. Will this work? I mean, I originally talked with a woman over there, and she said, well, they give you the first 250 feet free. Well, that won't even reach Chris and Holly's garden. I live at 620, 6,200 feet away.
Well, that's aimed for long driveways from the main fiber on the road.
Right.
So that's what that distance is really aimed at.
So anyways,
Okay.
just funny numbers.
Yeah.
So 250 feet, you're looking at, she said, well, after that, it's $1 a foot. And I'm saying, wow, that's pretty expensive. However, you know, Max brought up the idea, and we've talked about it through, I guess Richard Gethner was involved years ago.
Mm-hmm.
My son said that he had some grant money. So I approached Max, and he started talking about Connect Me Maine and all that type of opportunity to try to maybe, you know, see if that's something we could pursue. But the real reality is that, you know, we can't wait that long, given we have people that have businesses. You know, my son's a financial planner. He has an office in Waldeboro right now because he can't get good internet. So realistically, you know, is there a way of looking realistically at LCI, trying to get them to come up and take a look and see if it's even feasible? If it isn't, okay, we go to satellite, you know, and we bite the bullet.
Right.
You know, I ended up putting at Max's direction a letter of an interest, and the signatures are on there. Max, if you want to read that, you can, as to what we put in that opening paragraph or whatever.
All right, so letter of interest for internet services via LCI Fiber / Tidewater Telecom. We, the undersigned, are requesting that LCI Fiber / Tidewater Telecom conduct a feasibility study / review of Store Mountain Road in Waldoboro, Maine, to provide fiber optic internet services. Currently, there are potentially 6 to 7 households that are interested in LCI Fiber internet services. As potential customers, we would need to know monthly pricing, plans for 50 and 100 megabytes per second down. Is that megs per download or upload? Or?
I'm going by what they had on their website.
Megabytes per second.
Megabytes per second.
Right.
Contract terms as well as installation time frame. Costs associated with initial installment and options for payment would also have to be estimated. And then
Very good. Well, thank you for that.
Well, the idea being that, you know, maybe thinking outside the box, maybe that we could incorporate a cost-sharing type of scenario. Trying to do Connect Maine right now is so far down the road, if they would even consider this. We don't know what the number is. Is it $6,000? Is it $7,500? What is it?
Right.
You know, and then you can make it, you know, really, you need to evaluate that. And then the people that really want to get this on there, could we negotiate something with LCI to say, hey, how about if we do this deal, you have your monthly payment, and we're willing to add 25, 30, whatever it is, bucks per month over 2 years or whatever. Trying to think outside the box, see if that's something that is viable. Because Connect Maine, from what Max has told me, they're not gonna kick money in if it's already been established. There's no way. I mean, why would they?
Right.
But, you know, to sit there for
I think you're
a
right
half
about
a
that.
year,
Yeah.
you know, that's not gonna happen.
Well,
yeah, that's it.
yeah.
And, you know, the other thing is, and you guys know what it's like dealing with satellite. Or not satellite, but,
You won't like it.
Right.
Satellite, you won't like it.
well,
I'm telling you, I'm on it right now. You won't like it.
You feel the pain, right?
I do.
we did it a long time ago, and you're right, we didn't like it. But there's some new systems out there, so I've been told.
Yeah.
But who knows? Fiber would be the way to go.
Right.
I just, you know, but you gotta do something in the interim.
So, the only comment I have is, for some reason, when they did the grant, they ran fiber all the way up Jackson Road,
Yeah,
all the way to the point that you could almost see your place from where there's a farm, an old farm that's been renovated recently, and there's a new barn.
Yeah.
It's way up in here by the
is it
E.
Jackson's house?
It could be. It's a way up way beyond the pond right here, and you're over here.
Yep.
So the distance there is.
So they could have another loop.
Well, what's interesting is that the electricity for that house
Yes.
comes from our road.
So
It comes across our land.
so you have they have poles. Well, there you go. There's a
Are you kidding?
discovery.
Well, that's gonna make it a lot less
Yep.
expensive.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's all the way up there?
Yes. Yeah, I've seen it. I went up there recently, to recheck to see how far it really
Yeah,
went.
you should make sure you talk to them about that, so that they know that.
I wasn't even aware of it.
So when you go up,
Were you?
This is the first I'm hearing about
in
it.
fact, we have to take that drive so that you have
Yes.
visual.
So it's all the way up to the house?
Yeah, right up here, right up in here, and what I heard from them at the time they put this in, I asked them why they did it, and they said, well, we wanted to get into Union. And this is Clary Hill over here, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of homes up in here. And they wanted to get as close as they could to serve this group. And from the same point of presence down here,
And
you
they got
see.
grant money to do it.
And so there's maybe another angle here, especially for you, because of your proximity to this, as opposed to some of the other people down here. Or maybe they could do a loop.
Why couldn't they do the loop?
Right.
Well, the other thing that might
Excuse me.
entice LCI is when I was talking to them about Storm Mountain, they asked a few questions on Noise Road as well.
Mhm.
So I don't know if there's a similar situation where there's a pole that runs across through here that connects you with Noise Road. Because if that's the case, I think they really want to do this.
It's a private,
No.
this is
Noise
private.
What happens is,
Oh, no, and I'm not talking about Connect Main. I'm speaking of
The
just
noi-
Yeah.
getting
They
Store
might-
Mountain
right.
connected.
the noise road is, you get on to what, Raymond Raleigh's, and then it's discontinued road. I mean, there are several houses up there. But if there was poles going this way, the tower would have had electricity by now.
Right,
That's the issue.
right.
That's one of the biggest problems with that tower.
Right, and the residents of Noyce Roads came to a planning board meeting here and didn't want to have that power line put in up there. Through their property over here, back at the time that was done. There was a planning board meeting when they came in and asked for it. That was Connect Me, that was trying to get that power through there.
But well, there are power lines going through there.
No, but I'm talking up to the top of where the tower is, from Noyce Road.
And they,
It was gonna cost, estimated $25,000 to $30,000 at the time.
who asked about that?
Midcoast Internet.
Okay, yeah, oh yeah, it'd be outrageous. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
probably
And so then the solar.
quarter of a mile.
And solar is used today on much bigger sites than the one that you have there. In fact, the state, when I worked for the state, we put sites on mountaintops that were all solar powered. And,
However,
yeah,
you have to have good solar,
yeah,
and you have to have the right equipment.
right,
If you don't upgrade the equipment,
right, exactly.
you know.
So there are
You got panels
some.
on the ground.
So the only thing I might comment on is sort of an interesting thing. If
Well, this is interesting.
they want you to sign a 3-year contract, or how many years for a satellite system, that's the only problem we have to deal
I
with.
would say most of them are at least a minimum of 2,
Yeah,
and I think Viasat is 3.
right,
But it may be one of those things, if you have it for X amount of, say you have it for a year, then it's prorated,
yeah.
and you pay the balance, or you negotiate something up front,
Mhm.
and then you say, okay, we'll give you $200 or $300, we want it pulled, you take it out.
Right.
I mean, there's several different ways of looking
So
at
the
it.
company name Exceed is really Hughes, you know that, right? They have
Well,
a,
Exceed is Viasat.
well, it's also owned by, they use the satellites from Hughes, right?
No, there's 2.
Okay,
Two,
so they
yeah.
changed that.
And Viasat.
So maybe it is
owns
better. Which
Exceed.
one did you people get?
We've got Exceed,
Oh, okay.
Viasat.
Viasat, right? And that's not that great? No? You got good southern exposure?
Oh, we're
Wide
wide
open.
open.
Wide open. On Chapel, right, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, there's a possibility there. And the other possibility that I'd like to suggest is if you can get people on that, your area to be serious about it, so that they're willing to give some kind of a commitment to the provider, LCI, that they will get you as customers for
Oh, yeah.
doing this, as opposed to what's happened in the past where they put the fiber in and then nobody signs up. Well, that's called take rate issue. And if to have given a better agreement might be a way to get them enticed to want to do that.
Yeah, especially if the cost is as low as you've indicated might be.
So if I can jump in here. So after Jim told me about the proposal, I then contacted LCI, the person you talked to initially, who then, who then sent me to an engineering person who then sent me to Alan Hinsey. And after talking with Alan, this is certainly something LCI seems like they want to do.
Mhm.
And they should be sending someone soon to check to see what it would cost or an estimate. The number is probably going to be higher than initially believed because permitting and all that.
There's
but-
no make ready to pay for though, is there?
Nope.
That
But-
makes it cheaper.
That makes it cheaper. And probably the loop that we mentioned with the
From Jackson around,
That-
on existing poles,
Yep,
that's a,
so, and that's,
Exactly.
so that's why, that's something that we'll probably hear from hopefully soon, sometime in December.
Mhm.
Reason that, and I'm glad that Jim got the letter of interest.
Did all of them sign it? That's cool.
I have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you know, when you go over with a gun, it makes it a
Oh,
lot
okay,
easier.
yeah. That's true. I'll sign.
Well, that's, I really appreciate you doing that, because
Well,
that's the way.
Yeah, you
The
gotta do it
communities.
right. I mean, you know, I'm not, let's be honest, if someone already has satellite, you know, they may not change. But if they're having the same kind of issues that you are, they might.
Mhm.
And.
I can't imagine John and Susan and Holly and Herman not going for this. I would think they would.
Oh, no, I was
Yeah.
with John last night and yesterday.
Yeah.
And, you know, he says, I'd love to be able to work more efficiently. And Holly, I mean, God, she's an artist and she sends stuff all over the country.
Her uploads are
And,
huge.
you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, she says, I'll be halfway through something, like I was telling you guys, and Red Zone goes belly up. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm paying $70 a month, and I was connected in October, 2 years ago, last October,
Yeah.
and I haven't had one outage. And I can talk to anyone, anywhere in the world on Skype
Yeah.
with
We're
video.
so jealous of him, you have no idea.
But I just want to say, it really works,
Oh, absolutely.
so,
John, can I ask a
Yes.
technical question?
yeah.
What's to prevent me from going to one of our neighbors on Orf's Corner Road and just say, I'll buy you a router, you hook up to that fiber, and I'll piggyback on you and I'll pay for the damn router and the monthly fee? What's to prevent, is there anything legally preventing me from doing that?
There are many networks. We talked about people who are doing that up on Washington Road,
Right.
Yeah.
and nobody knows about it.
Well, here's the other thing that's going on. We have on Old Augusta Road, there's somebody that has an extremely long driveway. I mean, and they've actually run fiber on the ground to their house, which is way in, and this is always on their property, though.
Well, I'd have to go across Orf's property,
Right.
Solomon Orf's property.
Right, so, but they've just run it on, it's direct burial cable that they bought, and they just run it, but the provider is only providing to this, right there on the edge of the road right away. And they connect in themselves, and they're responsible for everything else. So there are people doing that already.
I'm talking about wireless though, with,
Oh, you could do it wireless, but you have to have line of sight in order to make that
If you-
work.
Yeah, if you're close enough. I don't think there's any
and
laws that
trees,
says you can't.
will
At
trees
least not
block the
yet.
signal?
Trees will block it.
Yeah, trees will.
The trees really will cut you down there. Yeah, because of the wet, that's really a small signal kind of link that they provide. But there are people that have done that in this town. On Hoek Road.
I mean, I get my neighbor's internet signal.
Yep.
It comes up.
You know, it's interesting to mention that. We ended up forcing the issue with, I guess it was Midcoast GWI. They ran a fiber cable from that tower to my house.
Oh, nice. So now if you get Red Zone to put one of their new, that's 3 generations beyond what you have there, one of their
It's not
radio
gonna-
systems up there on that tower.
The tower won't take it. It's not gonna happen, unfortunately.
Are they gonna take the tower away, or is it?
They're gonna take it away.
They're gonna take it
Because I'm
away.
not gonna be responsible for it.
Oh, you know,
God forbid
yeah,
something
safety
happens.
issue, yeah.
It's a safety issue,
Right.
yeah. All this stuff. See ya.
Well, the one that's on Flanders Corner Road has a big osprey nest drooping over the top of
Yes,
the antennas.
yeah.
So that the people that we're talking about that can't get service, it's because the osprey nest has caused too much destruction of signals coming to their homes, which are basically right underneath it almost.
So if I could just finish what I was getting at to
Sorry.
the whole thing. No, it's fine. It's fine. Now I know there's an osprey nest somewhere. Doing this for Jim quickly was for the purpose that it might